Hello, folks, and welcome to another Meet the Candidate. And today we have Norm Moses, and he is a candidate for the Newcastle Area School District Board of Directors. And we're going to talk to Norm. Norm, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ange.
I appreciate you for coming in. And Norm, what has inspired you to run for the Newcastle Area School District Board?
Quite frankly, Andrew, for several reasons. Uh, Number one, I looked at the assessment scores of our school district, the elementary at Washington and the junior and senior high schools. And I was a little disappointed in some of the test scores. Now, I was told, well, we're a depressed area, a lot of poverty in our cities. And basically, I said at the time, well, there's the same thing in Farrell, there's the same thing in Sharon and surrounding school districts. So it's got to be some other problem. I said, we, Newcastle School District, make no mistake about it. We have some of the finest teachers you're going to find anywhere. And I mean that sincerely. And I have the experience of my 5 children from age 54 now down to age 29 who graduated successfully from Newcastle Senior High School. And they had excellent, excellent teachers. I might add, probably from first grade on, almost 95% of their teachers were excellent. I never had a problem going into the district complaining about my child's education or discipline. And oftentimes, coming from some broken homes, you're going to have some discipline problems in the classroom. The second thing I think that bothered me immensely was you had a fund balance of 2.9 million. Just recently, I looked back and 7 or 8 years ago, it was fund balance of 9 million. Now, if you look at a droppage every 500,000 every year or two, the last school board meeting I went to, the fund balance was down to 5 or 7 million. This year's deficit, from what I understand, that's expenditures over income, is about 500,000. So that'll take the fund balance down to about 2.2. Now, how long can you go with slippage like that? Expenditures exceeding income. Well, if you do the math and they don't get it under control, you're going to have to raise taxes in a year, 2 or 3, dependent upon how deep that deficit is every year. You just can't continue. And I said to myself, I'm elderly now. I'm fortunate, I've done fairly well in my life. Many have not. I am not going to sit there and raise taxes. I know various ways to get expenditures under control. Number one, through attrition, where positions are not needed. In other words, don't make a position or don't sustain it because someone may need a job. Number one. Number two, you have to look at the structure, within our school district. We have the finest buildings. Look at them. Look at the elementary building at Washington. Look at Lockley. Look at Newcastle High School. The finest buildings you're going to find anywhere. And I want the finest students graduating from school. All 5 of mine went on to college. I have 2 attorneys. I say that humbly because from where I came, I wasn't that bright. And I did not want to learn when I was in school. So I've given you my reasons. Number one were the students. Somehow, I always felt I would be a dedicated teacher because I did teach. I taught profoundly handicapped individuals for the intermediate unit. And quite honestly, I had to give up teaching because I had a steel mill job. And the steel mill paid way much more at that time than the teaching position did. So those are some of the reasons, and the hiring practices. Now, I don't want them to take it personally for this reason. I know all the school board members. I like them. They're good people. They're good family people. I do not oftentimes agree with how they've arrived at a decision to hire or to do this or to do that. Do I think I may have a better way? Well, based upon my track record and all the jobs I've worked, I do believe that I can do a better job because in my occupation as the CEO for the Association for the Handicapped for 40 years, I think only 1 year did I incur a deficit, and that was about 35,000 on a budget that not as high as the school districts, but it was about average 7 million a year, and I was able to keep that under control. There are various ways. Look at transportation. Do you really need going to all kinds of seminars, this, that, and everything else in this day and age, when you have mass media, when you have webinars? So the point is, those are three of the things that I felt, I'm going to take a chance. And quite honestly, Ange, I win either way. If I win, I'm on a school board where you have to have 5 votes to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
The other is, assume I lose vote-wise. Well, I can still win by going to school board meetings, which no one does.
Right.
And I can ask questions, and I don't need 5 votes to ask the questions. And I told that to a couple of board members. I said, some of you folks go around saying Norman does not like teachers. Well, let's put that to rest. Some of the finest people I've ever met. I mean, I can go through a litany of teachers who I owe my children's education and success to. And that's just straightforward as can be. And as far as hiring, what I would recommend, and it may not sit well with a lot of people, we have departments of education in our surrounding colleges. Slippery Rock, from where I graduated, Westminster, you can even say Clarion, Westminster, fine schools. When it comes to applications and hiring, why not have a professor from each of the schools we all attended? Our colleges come in, pay them a stipend to look at all the applications, see who's qualified, put them in a certain pile, do the interviewing of the final 11, 10, or 12, and recommend to the school district, here's who we recommend you hire. And by law, the people that hire are the school board members. But I think that would take a lot of nepotism. I think you would have some of the finest teachers from that teaching pool. And quite honestly, Ange, I have nothing personal to gain. I do not have one relative to hire. Some of the relatives I do have are not worthy of being a teacher. They're just not worthy, and I say that, and if some of my relatives are listening, that's just the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't abuse my former job. I had over 107, I think it was, full-time, and maybe 45 part-time. And of course, you had seasonal summer workers for a summer camp for handicapped. And I was telling Ange earlier, the first 2 people I hired was a girl by the name of Carol Boak, and the other one was Terry Lynn Smith. We had hardly any funding, and 8 years later, I admired Carol Boak so much I married her. And she spent 39 years there with me. And finally, when I married her, I went to the boards, my board of directors. The president at the time was President Don Motto. He's the judge now. And I told the board, since I'm now married to Carol, perhaps she should leave. And they looked at me very seriously, and it made me nervous. They says, no, maybe you should leave and let her stay. And ironically, that was the only relative that I gained while I worked there.
I think you bring up a point that it's not personal. We have to deal with the realities of the day that are out there, the declining enrollment, the lack of people just in Lawrence County. And with the talk of schools being able to share expenses, is that one way you feel that they could cut their expenses?
I would absolutely explore that, and I'll tell you why, Ange. We give a scholarship away from Kiwanis Club, 3 scholarships for $1,000 each, and that means an awful lot to kids that don't have money, for ancillary services, transportation, books. But I got news for you. You're not going to have that. Would I explore it? Absolutely. Could I vote for that? Absolutely. But people in this county are territorial. What board member wants to give up their seat? What principal wants to give up being a principal? So when you talk about combining schools, Union this year, I don't think had 70 kids graduate high school. That was the total graduating class.
Yeah, it was down around 48.
What do you think Newcastle's was, senior?
Uh,
151. Now, the reason I know that, when we send scholarship applications out, they have a class rank. So-and-so ranks 550 out of 151. 151 graduates. I don't know what year you graduated.
79.
Well, I'll bet you your graduating class was probably in the neighborhood of 300, 250 to 300.
Oh, yeah. And I graduated from Union, and we were at 125.
Wow.
So Newcastle right now, in a lot of ways, reflects the size that Union was in 1979.
Well, see, those are the kind of things that you mentioned. Where can you combine services? Well, look at Leonard Rich. I don't know whether he's a great one or poor one. I would assume he's good. I knew his dad was excellent. Well, he has Votech and Laurel, and he does a superb job, and I guess they compensate him, they prorate what each pays. He's still going to make what a superintendent would make, and he does a marvelous job. When I was in elementary school, and that was a while back, you had maybe 6 principals in this whole city. Mr. Pete Gritty had Lincoln, had Rose Avenue, and had Thaddeus, a principal. Now, I'm going to be accused, mark my words, that I don't like the principals in the school district, or it's not about that. The ones I know I like very, very much. It's not about that. What do you want to do? Do you want our district to go in some sort of receivership? I don't know how that works, but what if the state comes in and says, in order to operate this way, you're going to have to raise taxes, or you're going to have to diminish the classroom by laying teachers off? That ain't going to get it. You need teachers. That's front line for the students. Principals, superintendent, we board members, if I make it, we don't teach the students. We're there to set the example. And you give the teachers the tools that they need to educate the kids, they'll reach heights you can't believe. And I believe it. And you substitute, you're a teacher,
Right.
you know.
Right. They'll rise to the level of your expectations. And that's a very true statement. And if you set the expectations low, you're going to get a low expectation.
Kids rise to the level you want.
That's right. If you set the expectation higher, they'll aim higher.
And another thing is, everybody's talking about school security. Someone asks, what's your plan? Let me get in first to assess, number one, what is needed, then set the priorities. Is it this? Is it security is always number one? How do you go about it? Well, talk to Bobby Salem. Talk to District Attorney Josh Lamacusa. Assist us. How do we make our schools safe? What is the best way that you folks recommend? I have the same thing. I have the same thing when it comes to interviewing people. Get someone who's independent outside, who are professionals, to tell us who is the best candidates to be teachers, to teach our kids, your kids and mine. Let's get the police force and law enforcement officials, the studies they have done, what they've experienced, and tell us what is the best way to secure the schools, our neighborhoods, whatever. I'm not a policeman. I would not propose where our fire stations would be. What do I know about that? I do know about hiring. Done it for all those years. I do know about expenditures versus income. I've done it all my life. And I do know that if you're going to hire a relative, let's assume you're going to hire one, they got to set the example. They better be there the earliest and be the last to leave. So, that's basically how I feel. And I tell the voters, basically, if you like what you have, keep it. I will not be angered. I will not be disappointed. Quite honestly, I beat cancer 14 years ago. It was in my lymph nodes, and I'm the last of 13 in my family. 6 died of cancer, and how I escaped, I don't know. And I was probably the worst one growing up. of all the kids, and I had quadruple bypass 17 years ago. So there are going to be some other things for me to do in life. And I'm not going to sit home and eat bologna sandwiches and pet the dog. You know, I just won't do that. I think I have something to add to this community, to this school district. And I have to do, Ange, I have to do a lot of exploration if I get elected. It's not like I'm going to go in there and say, okay, let's do this, 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 and this. Folks, I can't do a thing without 5 votes. So it's all about compromise. But I will tell you this, I will never, ever betray myself and what I believe in, nor will I betray the taxpayer or the voters. I will not do it. And I don't want anything more, and I say this sincerely, than 1 term. That is it, I promise, as the heavens witness. 1 term is enough for me. So, Angela, you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Norm, I think that was a great explanation of what you stand for, how you go about accomplishing things, and how to move forward in these times that are very challenging. Not impossible, they're just challenging.
Yes, they are.
So I'd like to thank you for coming on.
Thank you, Ange, very, very much.
And
I'm honored.
Thank you for watching NCTV45. Remember, tell a friend. We're available anytime on your time. And you can watch it tonight. You can share. And Norm would appreciate your vote on Election Day. Have a great evening, and we'll see you again real soon.
Thank you very much.